They knew that the laptop was real. How dare you lie to the American people? How dare you interfere with an American election of a president of the United States? How dare you do this?
It's time. Assaulting the narrative. Destroying the lie.
John Gordon.
Unearthing the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Live from West Palm Beach, Florida. Heard coast to coast and all around the world.
John Gordon.
High Noon with John Gordon.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of The Truth. I'm John Gordon. We're going to tell you the truth today, and there is a lot to talk about. We have got so much to unpack for you, but oh, happy day it is, because Alvin Bragg's fake prosecution against Donald Trump looks like it has the potential to crumble to shreds. You see, a poster on Facebook wrote that my cousin is a juror and they're convicting Trump tomorrow. Thank you for your service. Let's go to clip one.
Last week, Democrats pulled off the biggest sham in U.S. history. It's no secret that their case against President Trump has been a witch hunt from the beginning. From a conflicted judge who has donated to anti-Trump causes to the lead prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, who campaigned on going after President Trump, to the ridiculous charges to Matthew Colangelo, a senior Biden DOJ official, leaving his position in the administration to join Bragg's team, to the prosecution's star witness, who my colleague, our conference chair, referenced, Michael Cohen, a real criminal, admitting to multiple crimes on the stand. All of the evidence in this case points to one simple fact. This was never about what President Trump did or didn't do. It's about who he is. He's the leading Republican candidate for president. And the Democrats have made it clear that they will stop at nothing, even if it means weaponizing our justice system and trampling on the rule of law to try and prevent him from getting to the White House again. Good news is the American people are not fools. They see this for the sham that it is, and they will issue the ultimate verdict this November. Until then, House Republicans will continue to do our part to give Americans the transparency and accountability they deserve on the shady cast of characters who are hell-bent on attacking President Trump.
We want accountability 100%. That's what is lacking. Everybody is looking to someone else to do their job for them. And it really is frustrating to me. I mean, I appreciate Speaker Johnson. I appreciate this congressman for the transparency, but when are we going to get the accountability? Because as I said at the opening of the show, it now appears that at least one juror may have broken the judge's rules, the rules of the court, and talked to someone that was not on the jury prior to the jury's rendering a verdict. And that is grounds for mistrial. I've spoken to a couple of friends of mine this morning who are esteemed lawyers, very successful lawyers. They say that if this proves to be the case, it is automatic mistrial. Now, here's the prosecutor, in quotation marks, that brought this case. And this is what he said.
To make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone. Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt. I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day in matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
That's right. The jury has spoken, and the jury broke the cardinal rule, and that is not to have communication with anyone outside of the court and the jury pool. Yet it appears that is the case. Look, it may be too early to decide, but this guy, I had his name here earlier. He refers, after he got caught, he said, well, I'm just I can't say it on the air, but it starts with an S. I'm an S poster. I didn't know what that meant, so I went and looked it up. It's somebody who posts stuff just to spark a reaction, just to poke, stir the beehive, poke the bear, whatever. Trolls. That's what this guy was saying. Oh, don't pay any attention to me. I'm just stirring it up, guys. But that was after the fact. The damage was already done, and now Judge Merchan has written a letter, an unprecedented letter, to the counsel for both prosecution and defense, informing them of this post, and also informing them that he's going to have a hearing on it. We're going to get to the bottom of it. Now, I'm telling you, if I was that guy who wrote that post, I would be shaking in my boots. But the person who really needs to be shaken in their boots is his cousin, who he claimed was on the jury. He said, my cousin's on the jury. They're going to convict Trump. Well, the problem with that is it was a day before the jury rendered its verdict. Now, look, I put everything on a continuum because in these days and times, I really don't know what to believe and who to believe. Now, you can believe John Gordon and you can believe what we publish on The Truth because we work overtime to make sure that what we say is true. And that's why I'm going overboard to explain that this guy could just be a troll. He could just be making it up. It could be somebody in Donald Trump's campaign that actually went and posted that under a pseudonym. It doesn't feel that way, though. It doesn't appear to be that way. No, it appears on face value to be the cousin of a juror who had prior knowledge of the jury's deliberations. And what influence did this person exert on their cousin who was not supposed to have conversations with third parties? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. It would not surprise me if it were true. It would not surprise me if Judge Merchan is now forced to follow the law. It appears, based on what I have read, legal pundits to whom I've listened, and personal friends who have practiced law for decades, that this is automatic grounds for a mistrial. So that's why we played that little song, "Oh Happy Day," because good is going to triumph over evil in the long run. Just as I've told you for the last 2 years that we've done this show, I couldn't be more ecstatic that this whole thing, all this effort now could backfire, and which is what I and a lot of other people have been predicting all along. It is backfiring, and we'll talk about that more at the bottom of the hour. Now, Jack Smith, he's kind of in talking about poking the bear. He has received recriminations from the judge. Judge Cannon has actually indicated that she may question the legitimacy of Jack Smith's appointment as a special prosecutor, just as the Judiciary Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives did earlier this week. Here's cut 3.
I want to start by reading you the appointment clause of the Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 6 states, the president shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. Are U.S. attorneys nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate according to this appointments clause?
They are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate.
Wouldn't you agree that U.S. attorneys are held to the appointments clause because they are delegated some part of the sovereign power of the United States, such as the ability to make indictments and charge individuals with crimes?
I would say that those are not the reasons why, and a court has already ruled on the question of whether special counsels are subject to the appointments clause in the Mueller case, and ruled that they were not. Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden or confirmed by the U.S. Senate? Look, you're asking me about a case again. Motions filed.
This is a simple question.
No, I'm not.
Was Jack Smith nominated by President Biden?
No, he was not.
Was he confirmed by the Senate?
No, he was not.
When was the special counsel statute passed?
There is no special counsel statute. There was an independent counsel statute that was expired.
So it expired. So what gives you the authority to appoint a special counsel? You've created an office in the U.S. government that does not exist without authorization from Congress.
There are regulations under which the Attorney General appoints special counsel. They've been in effect for 30 years, maybe longer, under both parties. The matter that you're talking about whether somebody can have an employee of the Justice Department serve as special counsel has been adjudicated.
You appealed. Let me interrupt for a second, because you appealed to a regulation, a rule, whereas the Constitution says shall be established by law.
Yeah, the statutes.
Right, the statute. But you referred to a regulation, not to U.S. code.
May I answer? The regulation cites the two U.S. Code provisions that permit the Attorney General's appointment. Attorney General Barr cited to the same ones.
Are you familiar?
Even Attorney General Meese did that.
All right. Are you familiar with former Attorney General Meese's amicus brief?
No.
You're not?
I know that he's filed one because I read it in the newspapers, but otherwise I'm not familiar with it.
And Edwin Meese, who was the Attorney General of the United States under Richard Nixon, filed an amicus brief in the case that is currently under review. And Attorney General Meese said that Jack Smith was improperly appointed. Now, you're the current sitting Attorney General of the United States, and you're making decisions on vital matters of the United States government and its warfare against a former president of the United States, a current leading candidate for the United States, and you haven't bothered to read the amicus brief? Or do you just look at what you will validate you, that will not cause you to rethink your untenable position? Here's the rest of the clip.
Well, he raises some good questions that I agree with in there. It seems like you've created an office that would require an act of Congress, yet there's not an act of Congress that authorizes that. And even if it didn't require an act of Congress, and you've already admitted it, there was no act of Congress that established this office, it would still require, according to the Constitution, a nomination by the president and confirmation by the Senate.
So Mershon and the Alvin Bragg case may have to be declared a mistrial. It may be over and done. Jack Smith is over and done. The judge in the case, Judge Cannon, said that she's going to look into the appointment of Jack Smith, that she has questions about it. Here you have the United States Congress saying that to the Attorney General that he lacked the authority to appoint Jack Smith because he didn't follow the law. He didn't follow the Constitution. And what is his response? Oh, I have a regulation that gives me the authority. Well, who writes the regulations? The bureaucrats, the same bureaucrats that are trying to enforce their illegitimate regulation. Jack Smith, illegitimate. The documents case, illegitimate. And Judge Cannon has put the case on hold indefinitely. All right, well, let's have some more fun. We go now to the Fani Willis case in Georgia. And finally, the adults show up.
This woman is riddled with problems, and I'm not even a legal mind.
No, she's fallen on her fanny since the very beginning. There's the headline for tomorrow,
well
folks. But, no, truly, I mean, number one, this has completely been a disaster. It was a fake case to start with. Her arrogance, her demeanor has been incredibly telling. It's very much the typical coordinated with the Biden administration move. They have these state DAs, AGs coordinating to take down Trump. Well, she just took herself down in the most public display of chaos and disgrace, frankly.
And she left out hubris and arrogance. I've never seen anyone act more defiantly and more arrogantly, with greater arrogance than Fani Willis did when she was in Judge McAfee's courtroom. You know, my favorite little judgy up there in Georgia. Judge McAfee, who showed such tremendous courage in removing Fani Willis from the case. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He removed Nathan Wade from the case, Ms. Willis's paramour. And while saying that one of them had to go, Judgy says, okay, one of you have to go. Either it's Fani Willis or her lover, Nathan Wade. Now, which one of y'all are going to raise your hand and go? I wonder how long it took them to make that decision. So Nathan Wade leaves, but Judge McAfee says, oh, but the defendants, I will grant them an interlocutory appeal, which means that you can appeal what I just said. Now, what the way I infer from that is, well, what you're saying, Judgy, is that you should get rid of both of them. Because in his ruling, he says there's an odor of mendacity. Gee, many Christmas, Judge. Can't you just say it? She lied? Can't you just say that she disrespected you, she disrespected your courtroom, she violated the canons of ethics, she violated her oath of office, she came into your courtroom and she lied? She said that she reimbursed Nathan Wade for those luxurious trips to Napa and Miami and the Caribbean out of the cash that she kept in her house. And it's a black thing. That's what her daddy told her to do. Her daddy told her to always keep cash because you never know when you may need it. Well, she needed it on this go-round because that became her excuse. No records, no receipts, no corroborating evidence. But Judge McAfee says, oh, for those of you watching on Getter or Rumble or YouTube Live, you can see that I'm slapping my hand because that's what Judgy did to Fani. He just slapped her on the wrist and said, oh, but by the way, the adults up in the Court of Appeals, they can decide this case if they choose to. And guess what's happened? The Court of Appeals took the case. They have agreed to hear the case on the disqualification of Fani Willis, that Judge McAfee, my favorite little judgy in Atlanta. Oh my God, I hope I don't ever get a speeding ticket and have to go before a judgy. I'm toast. Anyhow, I'm sorry. The guy needs to man up. He should have manned up, but it's too late. You know why he didn't man up? Because he had to face an election. And 50% of Atlanta is African American, and they voted overwhelmingly by 80 some odd percent in the primary to reelect Fani Willis. She is the Democratic nominee for District Attorney of Fulton County, and the election is in November. But that's why he did it, in my view, my opinion, my educated opinion, that he knew that the voters of Fulton County would turn him out if he didn't side with his former boss, Fani Willis, because they like her. They're giving her awards. They're giving her awards in courage and outstanding public service. When she lied, she embezzled, and she persecuted. She brought a fake case. Now here's the punchline. The adults in the room have finally shown up. the Court of Appeals suspended indefinitely Fani Willis's case. They overruled my favorite judge, McAfee, who said that he would continue to accept motions in the case and continue the case to move forward while the Court of Appeals reviewed his cowardly decision. Well, they have, and they suspended the case indefinitely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, happy day. Now, oral arguments will take place in the Court of Appeals should they allow it. They have tentatively set oral arguments for October the 4th. What does that mean? It means Fani Willis's case is cooked, overdone, baked, finished, and we'll see whether she has cooked her own goose. My prediction, the Court of Appeals will rule to disqualify Fani Willis. They should remove her from her office, and they should disbar her. I don't think that's exactly the way it works. They can remove her from the case, and they should, and I think that they will, and that will be the end of that. It's really pretty much already the end of it. That case is done, mark my word. But in order to disbar her, I believe the court would have to make a referral to the Georgia Bar Association, who would have to open a hearing and would have to determine whether she did, in fact, violate the canons of ethics, which I think anybody with 2 eyes and 2 ears who has bothered to watch can see that she lied. And she abused her authority over just unbelievably. You know, I read yesterday that in the aftermath of 2020, she posted on Facebook, which have since been taken down, just like this guy who the juror's cousin took his post down now. But try and unring that bell, will you? But Fani Willis evidently made a couple of posts following the 2020 election, questioning some of the things that occurred, like the water main break at the State Farm Arena Tabulating Center. And she made another post. I'll have to go back and find where I read that. You know, today's broadcast is a little over an hour. I've spent at least 15 hours following this. I watch the news so you don't have to. We just capsulate it here for you and tell you what the mainstream media refuses to tell you. They continue to push the narratives for our own federal government somehow tells them to. I'm still trying to figure out, I'm still trying to unravel for myself and for you all, exactly how does this work? How does it work? We've got a glimpse into it with the Twitter files when Mike Taibbi revealed that the FBI paid Twitter $3.4 million to censor people. Now, I'm sure the invoice didn't say that, but that was the effect of it. They're taking money, our taxpayer dollars, to put forth a narrative, and I don't think that the taxpayers want that. I sure don't want it. That's not what I'm sending my hard-earned money to Washington for. But that seems to be the way that it works. So we send the money up there. Maybe it's even just rogue people in the federal government. Probably in our national security and intelligence operation that are determining what should be reported by these media outlets. The New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, the Cox Media Group, Facebook, Google, big tech, that are controlling the media. And I used to wonder a lot, how does it happen? How is it orchestrated? And I think that it's maybe just become SOP. I mean, I questioned for years, how could the media continue to assert that Oswald acted alone when they know better? When anyone who's bothered to look and study and read, and anybody who listens to The Truth with John Gordon now knows that the CIA, Allen Dulles, Johnson, and Hoover, Dulles orchestrated it. Johnson and Hoover either knowingly went along with it or certainly worked to cover it up. And then you see the same sort of thing being played out over 2020. In the Kennedy assassination, we had the Warren Commission. In 2020, we have the media saying President Trump attempted to overturn an election without evidence. And there's so much evidence it makes your head swim. But how do they get these people to continue to write the same thing? And the line is repeated over and over and over and over again in every article that is written, whether it's by the LA Times, the Washington Post, the AP, or CNN. They say that it's Trump's false election claims. Well, you're not supposed to do that. That is an editorial. You are saying that they're false election claims. I think you're lying. I think you know that the claims were valid. And the more evidence that comes out, the more we realize that the biggest lie is you're saying that there was a big lie. But how do they get the media to go along with them? I think they just flat out pay them. I think they just flat out pay them because one of the members of the Cox family has written or has sat for an interview, and he said, yeah, the Cox Enterprises has a contract with the Defense Department. How much and for what? That's what I would like to know. So how does the money get to them? Who pays it? Who authorizes it? And really, just how much money is it? Inquiring minds want to know. So it's Hunter Biden's turn in the barrel now, and this actually gives me some hope. I mean, we talk about the two-tier justice system, but Papa Joe hadn't been able to insulate Hunter from his gun charge. You know, Hunter, just to show you how inept he is and how arrogant he is, really, he had the plea deal of plea deals. He was going to get off with a slap on the wrist, and with all of his hubris, he turned it down. And so now the prosecutor said, okay, look, we tried to give you some grace, and you just shoved it right back in our eye. So now we're going to go to trial. And that's where they've been. They've been in trial for a week, and Hunter's stepmom has come to the trial and sat in the courtroom with him to give him emotional support. Did you read what Hunter Biden said about the First Lady of the United States? He wrote the most vile, he said them in a tweet, in a text, which has now become public. He wrote the most vile text to a family member about Jill Biden, and I can't repeat it on the air. But he said that she is a vindictive blank. And it's about the worst thing that you can call a female. And this was written about his stepmother, who actually was trying to get him into rehab, trying to encouraging him and pushing him, forcing him, prodding him to get into rehab. So it goes back a ways. I think it was in 2018 that was going down. But now he's lied on a federal form. He checked the box that said he did not use illegal drugs while he was getting a gun permit. And do you know what his defense is? I mean, it's just, the way these people think and the way that they are unwilling and incapable of acknowledging their own flaws is just remarkable to me. So he said, oh, I interpreted that to mean I wasn't taking drugs when I filled out the form. But the judge very correctly has informed the jury, no, It's not about whether he was high on cocaine when he filled out the form. It was whether he was high on cocaine while he was possessing a gun that he was seeking a permit to carry. I mean, get real. I mean, you're insulting the intelligence of every living American if you think that that's what that form was asking about. Were you high when you filled out the form? No. Were you high when you had the gun that you wanted the permit for? And it really caused his ex-lover, who was his sister-in-law, it put her into a tailspin. She was really scared. She was scared for him, and she was scared for others. And so she was trying to get him to give up the gun. In fact, she grabbed the gun and she threw it in the trash because she was concerned about Hunter's safety and the safety of others that were in his sphere. So now after this case, and legal pundits that I've watched and read say there is zero chance that he won't get convicted. The evidence is just overwhelming. And so now it's the Biden family turn in the barrel. The difference, though, folks, is the O'Bidens have waged lawfare. This case against Hunter is not lawfare. There is substantial, provable evidence that he committed a felony. The felony being that he lied on a form. You know, Alvin Bragg, he got Trump, he got around the statute of limitations by saying that Trump had committed a felony and that was the way that he was bolstering the misdemeanor case of false financial records into some kind of a felony which got around the statute of limitations. It's all just one big lie, and that felony still to this day has not been revealed. I think the reason it hadn't been revealed is that there is none. But Hunter legitimately has committed a felony. It is, I believe, been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And now Hunter is being called to atone, and he's being held accountable. And yes, it does happen within the context of an election for president of the United States. And I'm sure that the Democrats are going to say, oh, this is just lawfare. But the problem that they've got is that it's the Biden administration, the Department of Justice, that is prosecuting Hunter Biden. So they can't say that. It's just real. It's just as real as it can be. And after this case is over, then Hunter gets to stand trial for tax evasion. He has taken millions of dollars, $3 million from the mayor of Moscow, $800,000 plus from Burisma, where he served as a director, and money from the Chinese, an entity that had direct ties to the CCP. And so now he's going to have to go have a second trial, and I think it is over for Hunter Biden. Jail time, other than as a first offender, is all but a certainty, I believe. Let's go look at a little clip that David Muir had with President Biden just this week in Normandy.
Your son Hunter is on trial. Will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
You have.
Well, so do we believe him? Do you believe Joe O'Biden? Well, let me take you back and let's take another clip here back to the debate with President Trump.
Take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody's
Take a look
President
at the
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue
Excuse
of
me,
race. We're
take a
talking
look at
about
the
the issue.
laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have to
just
respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia.
Yeah.
Can you believe this? So the laptop is in evidence in Hunter Biden's trial in Delaware right now. In Delaware, where, you know, the Bidens have lived for decades, where they have their primary residence, and then in Rehoboth Beach, where they have a beach house. I don't know how somebody who's worked for the federal government for 45 or 50 years gets to own 4 houses, including a beach house. Where did the money come from? Well, I think you know where the money came from. I certainly have my beliefs where the money came from. But the laptop, which Joe Biden stood in front of the American people and said that had been debunked and it was all a product of Russian disinformation. You just heard him say that in the replay from the debate that he had with President Trump in that election. If that was not election interference, I don't know what it was. And it was on the behalf of 54 spy chiefs. And that's why I rail on the CIA and the FBI and the NSA. And I always hasten to add that it is at a severe disservice to the good men and women who are risking their lives every day to protect our country. We will never know the things that CIA has done around the world that has saved our country, that has been in our country's best interest. And they risk their own lives and put their own families at risk. We owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude. And the thousands of FBI agents who are out there every single day, risking their lives, putting it all out there, leaving it all out on the field for our safety and our nation's safety. And then the leadership, how dare them? They discredit every one of those people. They diminish their significance. They undermine the sacrifices that they have made because they engage in this kind of stuff. 54 people who were in the intelligence community said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation when they knew that the laptop was real. How dare you lie to the American people? How dare you interfere with an American election of a president of the United States? How dare you do this? You're destroying this country. You're undermining the people you're supposed to be servant leaders to. You are discrediting the agencies that you represent. It's disgraceful. It's shameful. And the only way to correct it is to take accountability, to take responsibility, and say, we screwed up. You sat an illegitimate person in the White House, and now look what we're reaping from it. The harvest that you brought us. 2 wars, a third about to begin potentially in Taiwan. Did you see the employment numbers? The unemployment numbers, they ticked up 1%, 0.1%. They went from 3.9 to 4%. And when you really delve back into those numbers, I'll get you the numbers, but here's the importance of it. All these people that have crossed our southern border are taking jobs from our citizens. U.S. citizens in low-income jobs have been declining, and immigrants are moving up. It's disgraceful. It's shameful. It is a predictable consequence that Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and all the people that have orchestrated this from Washington, D.C., care more about their own power and their own self-interest than they do about the sacred ground of the United States of America and for all the lives that have been lost protecting it and creating it and preserving it. And they're willing to throw it all out just to get their way, just for their own power. That's what this is about. Everybody that knows, everybody that has a brain reaches that same conclusion. How bad does it have to get, ladies and gentlemen? How bad does it have to get before the American people stand up and say no more? We are not going to be lied to. We are not going to be manipulated. We are not going to have you desecrate the southern border and the sovereignty of the United States of America by eliminating our border and by bringing fentanyl and God only knows who else into our country. I'm going to bring this all together by the end of the broadcast today. Don't go anywhere. You can join us on Getter. Right now, we're streaming live on Getter. You can watch us on audio and video. And we've got 1,000 people on Getter right now. We usually get up to around 3,000 before the end of the broadcast. And then about another 2,000 watch it after the fact. That's just on Getter, ladies and gentlemen. We have another group of followers on Rumble who watch us live every Saturday. We're streaming there. You can also watch us live on YouTube.com. And we're coming to you, as you know, on the John Fredericks Media Network in Atlanta, Richmond, Norfolk, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Nashville, and the entire state of West Virginia. So please subscribe to our channel. Like us if you do. And I'd be very grateful to you. It's the only thing I ask you to do in return. I've spent 10, 15 hours working on this broadcast for today. I hope you're enjoying it. It's not designed to be entertainment, even though some of it is entertaining. I try and make it a little bit fun. Like, can Hunter come over and play? Can Hunter come over and play today? He's going to bring his crack pipe with him, maybe. And maybe a stash of drugs. And, oh, yeah, he's going to have a handgun with him. But I sure would like for him to be able to come over and play today. Because he's got his mommy in the courtroom with him. She's not there to support Hunter. I don't think. I think she's there to try and save the Biden White House presidency and incur favor from the jury. You know, she's just there for window dressing. And I'll tell you something else that really gets me. This really does fire me up, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Biden and Dr. Jill, who ain't no doctor, Dr. Jill were in Normandy. Do you know that she took Executive Foxtrot 1, as it's referred to, which is, I believe, a 757. She took that plane from Normandy, France, back to Delaware so she could sit in Hunter's trial the day after Biden was at Normandy. And then she flew back to Normandy. I don't have the sequence exactly right, but I've got the facts essentially correct that she flew over on Air Force One with Joe Biden. Then she flies on what they call Executive Foxtrot 1 back to Delaware to sit in the trial with baby Hunter. And then she flies Executive Foxtrot 1 back to Normandy because they are so all important. They are so all important that they can mooch off the taxpayers of this country and just absolutely rob our treasury blind so she can fly back and forth for baby Hunter's trial. Oh, God forbid that she would have to fly Delta. I mean, Delta, I was flying Delta last week. It's pretty nice. Right, left on time, arrived on time, and I got a meal in the process. Wasn't very good, but at least I got fed. Anyhow, I digress. But don't you see, ladies and gentlemen, they don't care about being stewards of our treasury. She cared more about getting back to Delaware so she could be in the trial, in the courtroom, hoping to incur sympathy with the jurors, 2 of whom have had substance abuse problems, I've read. And so what kind of a fair trial will Hunter get? I'm sorry, what kind of a fair trial will the government get? But that's just the way they roll. And I don't know. You know, we got things in the White House, cocaine on the floor. Can you ever imagine, in your wildest dreams, have imagined that we would be experiencing this? It feels like something straight out of the Twilight Zone to me. But they're having fun up there. They're having fun up there. High on cocaine. Well, so I think what is really insulting is that Joe Biden stormed Normandy this week. Let's watch him storm into Normandy. Barely able to walk down the short steps off of Air Force One. And then I watched him walk with French President Macron through the color guard, welcoming them to Normandy. And he was so feeble, and they masquerade. He's holding Dr. Jill, who's no doctor's hand. And it wasn't, you can just sense it. You can just feel it. It wasn't about love. It was about holding on to Joe so he wouldn't stumble and that she'd be there for him if he fell. That's the way I interpret it. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying. But so then I think it's disgraceful that Biden would go to the very spot that Ronald Reagan visited when he spoke at Normandy and made an absolute historic speech.
At the very site that former President Ronald Reagan gave that speech to mark D-Day 40 years ago, Biden clearly channeling the conservative icon by echoing the same thoughts on defending democracy and honoring the heroic sacrifices of American soldiers during World War II.
You all knew that some things are worth dying for. One's country is worth dying for, and democracy is worth dying for because it's the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man. All of you loved liberty. All of you were willing to fight tyranny, and you knew the people of your countries were behind you.
Wow.
Wow. Boy, did she nail it. I mean, I've got chills running down my back. And for Biden to go there and try and to have a Reagan moment, I think is disgraceful. President Reagan is, I'm sure, turning over in his grave at this very moment. It's almost disrespectful to me. I'm sorry, illegitimate. Oh, Biden, you are no Ronald Reagan. So, I keep listening to Biden talk about the conservative, crazed MAGA people. The deplorables. I mean, do we broad brush Democrats like that? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember or recall an instance where a leader of the Republican Party has painted a broad brush against Democrats and called them deplorables or wild conspiratorial MAGA people. Well, it causes me to wonder, what does it mean to be MAGA? Folks, I want you to get out a paper and pen, and I want you to write down for me what you consider to be the top 10 characteristics of a MAGA person. I mean, Biden seems to think they're evil and bad. Well, I made my list, and I want you to make your list. I'm serious. I want you to consciously think right now, what does it mean to be MAGA? You tell me, what do you think MAGA people represent? We're deplorable. We're conspiratorialist. We're conservatives. We just must be bad. But that's how these people roll. Q, what's the opposite of virtue signaling? You know, that's what they deal in. They deal in virtue signaling. And I guess it would be what, name calling? Yeah, name callers. That's what they're doing. They're name calling. I mean, I think I'd call them bullies and name callers. But so here's what my list is. Have you made your list yet? Now, there may be a prize at the end if you get them all right. So you better have your list ready. The top 10 characteristics of a MAGA deplorable person. Here's what I think. I think they love God. I think MAGA people love God. I think they go to church. I think they read the Bible. That's what I believe. I think they love America. And I think they stand and salute our flag. I think they love the Constitution. I think they believe in the Constitution. And I think their hearts are filled with gratitude for the people in Normandy who gave their lives defending our Constitution and our liberties. That's what I believe. I believe that MAGA people recognize the difference between right and wrong. I think MAGA people believe that good will triumph over evil. That's what I believe. I think that MAGA people are for a strong military. I think that MAGA people support our men and women in law enforcement and believe that we should have law and order in our country. I believe that MAGA people believe and celebrate capitalism. I think they believe in the American dream. I think they believe in the land of opportunity and want to protect it. MAGA people believe in meritocracy. MAGA people believe in peace for the world. MAGA believe in less government. Those are my beliefs, and I believe that I'm speaking on behalf of all the MAGA people in the United States today, and I believe that I'm reflecting the beliefs of Donald Trump. He got us out of 2 wars. He got us out of Iraq, which was brought about by lies that were perpetuated by the CIA. He got us out, was getting us out of Afghanistan. He got us the biggest tax decrease in American history, and he rolled back 3,500 government regulations. I think he believes in less government. That's what I believe. What do you believe? You can go on Getter right now and join us in the live stream. You can chat it up right there. We got 2,500 people now on Getter, and we've got a host of people on Rumble. I'm not sure how I can tell how many people are on Rumble right now, but you can join us there and you can interact with us and leave your comments. I want to know, what are your top 10 characteristics of someone who is MAGA? I mean, are you going to call someone who believes in God, who reads the Bible, who tries to do right, who believes in less government, who believes in the land of opportunity, who believes in the Constitution and our freedoms? Are you going to have the nerve to call them deplorable? Where do you get off calling these patriots, right-wing conservative conspiratorialist? I can't even put the words together. They're so bizarre to me. They're nonsensical. They're the words of a bully. All right. So I'm worried, folks. I'm worried about an October surprise. I'm worried that Biden has got us in 2 skirmishes, one in the Middle East, where we are pretending at least to be helping the Israelis. We get so many mixed signals. I don't know whether we're there for the Israelis or the Iranians who are using Hamas as a proxy. But watch this interview that David Muir had with Joe Biden this week. This is scary to me.
Said last night about this authorization of American weapons inside Russia. He said the supply of high-precision weapons to Ukraine for strikes on Russian territory is direct participation in this war. He went on to say that this is the way to serious problems, and again talked about Russia's nuclear capabilities. Does that concern you?
I've known him for over 40 years. He's concerned me for 40 years. He's not a decent man. He's a dictator, and he's struggling to make sure he holds this country together while still keeping this assault going. We're not talking about giving them weapons to strike Moscow, to strike the Kremlin, to strike just across the border where they're receiving significant fire from conventional weapons used by the Russians to go into Ukraine to kill the Ukrainians.
Are you listening to that? Is that not the biggest soliloquy of projectionism that you have ever heard? He is struggling to hold his country together. Oh, he's not going to bomb Washington and New York and Miami. Let's just say this was reversed. Let's say that you were watching an interview with Vladimir Putin, and he said that he wasn't going to go in and bomb, I'm not going to bomb Moscow, or in his case, Washington. Biden's not going to go into the heartland of Moscow. He won't bomb New York or Miami or Atlanta or Denver. He's just going to go just inside the border. He's just going to take out Savannah and Miami and West Palm Beach, where I'm sitting, and maybe Los Angeles. Jesus Christ, help us. Look, this is what's going to happen. This is my biggest fear. I don't know this for a fact, and I've got to put a big major exclamation point around it, but they are losing so badly. They are running out of options, and they want power more than anything. They are not going to be willing to give it up until they have tried every dastardly deed they can. And this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm suspecting a little bit. This is what I'm imagining. That Biden is going to get us in a conflict, a direct conflict with Russia. Everything he is doing is leading us to that. This is serious stuff, though, folks. Listen to what Biden is saying. We're only going to allow them to use American weapons to attack just over Russia's border. This is dangerous stuff. You don't mess with Vladimir Putin, just like you don't mess with Donald J. Trump, but you sure as hell can mess with Biden. And Biden is the most inept, corrupt person I've ever seen serve in government. And ladies and gentlemen, he is bringing us to the brink by doing this. This is dangerous, serious stuff. Here's my fear. Here's my tiny bit of a suspicion. I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to keep talking about it. We're going to shine so much light on it from this little megaphone that they won't be able to pull this off. But my fear is that he will intentionally or unintentionally, through his ineptness, bring us to the brink of a nuclear war with Russia, and that the November elections will be suspended because of national security threats. I'm trying to figure out what is the October surprise that they can do. I can't come up with it. But when I watched this interview with David Muir, the hair on the back of my neck started to stand up. And I've been wondering and suspecting this for some time, This war in the Ukraine is a fool's folly. It is bringing us into a direct conflict with Russia. And this guy, Biden, and his mentor, Obama, are inept enough to bring us to a nuclear threat and a nuclear war, the threat of a nuclear war with Russia, because they are provoking the hell out of them right now. You watch that interview, you tell me how you would interpret it different. I'm scared to death. I am scared to death. We have got to get this crooked, corrupt, inept president out of office. We can't do it soon enough. Will November get here in time for us to save our country and prevent a nuclear war with Russia? God save us. God save America. I pray for you. I pray for us. I pray for our country. I pray that this illegitimate, inept, corrupt president is not going to bring us to the brink of a nuclear war. Sorry to bring you down, folks. I've got to tell it the way it is. I got to tell it as I see it. And all I can say is I'm proud to be an American. We'll see you next week on another edition of The Truth. I'm John Gordon. Have a wonderful weekend.